So Jill previously managed Aging and Disability Resource Center programs for the area agencies on aging before her own private psychotherapy practice. She embraces a holistic approach to care, emphasizing the importance of addressing the parts of life we often don't talk about. Beyond her work, Jill enjoys gardening, mushroom hunting, and reading. And it's lovely to hear you. And I have enjoyed your Denver talks for the past at least a year and a half now. And it's so much fun to hear you that I wanted the people who come to my group on Tuesday evenings to hear you talk about second disability. It's something close to my heart and also close to my pain level. And we all have bits and pieces of pain and disabilities and misunderstandings. And I think that you will really give us a good insight into what we're going through and what you've seen with different people with polio. So I say, Jill, carry it out.
Thank you, Mona. It's an honor to be asked to speak to your group. I've heard about this group from you and from Carla, and thank you very much. Shall we see if I'm able to share the PowerPoint that I made for you guys?
Oh, I have to make you co-host. There we go.
And it's been a while since I've done this, so let me see if
Do you have it up on your screen already?
I do. Good question.
Okay.
I do. And I think if I do,
You just click on the bottom there, share screen.
but
Then
then are you seeing my notes?
Yes.
We
You're
see
seeing all my notes? Okay, hang on.
We were.
We saw it.
It looked
You
like,
saw all my secrets.
no, there's
No,
no
it's
PowerPoint.
no.
No, we
PowerPoint.
saw your
It's
notes.
a
We
PowerPoint.
saw the PowerPoint, but I don't think we saw the notes, did we?
I didn't see any notes.
I didn't.
I don't see any notes either.
You didn't see it, Jill?
I did. Can you see it now?
No.
No.
We see you. Here it
All right, we
comes.
see it.
Perfect.
Ta-da! Can you read it
That's
okay?
great.
Okay. Okay. So just to get us started, is there anyone who can't hear me okay? All right, perfect. If everything goes right in this talk and I do my job, my plan is for all of us to understand the interaction of our bodies and our minds and our emotions and also our relationships with other people when we have a disability. And this could be for primary disability, second disability, third disability. We all have different things and experiences. I will do my best, just to let you know, this is my disclaimer. I will be doing my best to take care of us as a group, but there very well could be some strong emotions that come up when we discuss some of these things. So it's going to be my job to keep us on track and take care of us as a group. And it'll be your job to pay attention to what's going on in your body, right? Because it's giving us information. I'm definitely going to need your involvement, but I would ask that we save questions until the end. And I want to do a little experiment. I want to start off. I'm very excited to show you this next slide because it's from my boyfriend's daughter. Her name's Hannah, and she's in nursing school and she's doing a rotation in the adolescent psych unit. So without thinking too hard, I'm going to show you on the next slide a photo, and I want to know which side you gravitate to. Are you ready? Whoa, right?
Wow.
Okay. Can you tell me which side you gravitate to?
The right.
Left.
Right.
The right.
The right.
Yeah.
The right.
Right.
Yes, yes. So I'm excited that you guys played a little with me on that because we pick up our cues from the world around us. And there probably are times where we relate more to the pink one than we do the orange one, right? So we pick up our cues from the world on what is safe and comfortable, and that's our autonomic nervous system. And there's been so much research just in the past few years on how important this part of our nervous system is, especially when we've been through trauma. So just little basic anatomy, we have a huge nerve that runs through our bodies. It's the vagus nerve, and it carries the messages between our brain, our heart, our digestive system, and it controls a lot of involuntary things we don't even think about, like our heart beating, breathing, going to the bathroom, which I will tell you right now has been more of an issue for me. I'm a colon cancer survivor. And I thought we just took that, thank you. I thought we just took that for granted, that my body would tell me when I had to go to the bathroom. Turns out that sometimes you have to relearn some real basic things, okay? You need to know, the part to keep in mind is that 80% of these nerves that are attached to the vagus nerve, 80% carry information from the body to the brain, and only 20% go from the brain out to the body to tell us what to do. So we are constantly picking up information from the environment, not because we think about it, but because we do exactly what you did. We feel it, right? If I would have asked you which of these pictures feels safer, everyone would have had an opinion, unless possibly you have a brain injury or advanced dementia or Parkinson's and you can't pick up on affect, right? You can't pick up on what message am I getting from the world? This happens so fast, we don't even have to think about it, right? You guys are meeting me for the first time. And I'm assuming because I know Mona and Carla, you already trust me. But I want to show you something. You can't see all of me, right? That's the limitation of Zoom. But if I do this and say, look, this is who I am. This is my office. I just want to show it to you. This is where I meet with people. Can you tell how it feels different? It feels like you know me even just a little bit more. Can you feel that? Yeah, I can see some heads nodding. Okay, next slide. What all of these, I know. If you guys see me do presentations again, you'll notice that I love using animal pictures. So what all of these animals have in common is that they're all mammals. And the reason that we have this amazing nervous system is because of that. Mammals are social. They're known to be social. And part of the reason is because we don't have hard shells to protect us, right? We're not a reptile. We're not a turtle. We can't fly off like a bird. And so we are not born with the ability to regulate things like our temperature. We can't feed ourselves. We can't control when we go to the bathroom. We can't run away even when we're babies. We're incredibly vulnerable, right? And we have to depend on someone else to care for us. So our autonomic nervous system is designed to connect, to keep us with the herd, keep us with our mamas or our dads, and do whatever it can to make us feel safe. That's why we say stay with the herd, find your tribe. And when we have that connection, guess what? The nervous system says, oh, I'm safe. I can digest food. I can learn. I can be creative. And this is also when we can relax and play as well as sleep. We're going to go into that just a little bit more, but that's a key piece. So 2 terms to just know are co-regulation and neuroception. We are dependent on connecting with other people to keep us safe. That's why COVID was so terrible. There was nothing to compete with what was going on in my head because I wasn't running into lots of people. We saw huge spikes in paranoia, dissociation, people not being able to concentrate. You guys can probably all relate to some of that. And that was in addition to just being scared. It was really scary, right? Yeah. So the first on this is co-regulation. And this is where I check in with other people to see if I'm safe. My body searches for clues. I'm not thinking about that in my frontal cortex. Although I've made a connection, I know Mona and I know Carla, so I have a feeling of safety, right? I don't even have to think about some of those things. Because I knew people were going to be in this group who I knew, I just could trust that you guys would be fabulous to have this discussion with. So that's co-regulation. And that's something as a therapist I'm paying attention to. If I have a client that comes in and I smile, are they able to smile back? If I say, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you told me that's so hard, are they able to accept comfort? You know, I'm looking for, where is that back and forth? And I promise you, I've had clients who are so shut down and I can see them for week after week. And maybe finally on the 5th week, I'll get a smile out of them. Or they'll tell me, they'll kind of joke around about something. And that's when I know, okay, that person's body is picking up that they can be safe with me. And sometimes it's that little tiny bit of progress, right? And we'll talk about why that is. We'll talk about why that is that sometimes that mechanism for us to connect gets kind of stuck. The other word to know is the neuroception, and that's where my brain takes cues automatically from the environment to tell me if the situation that I'm in is safe, dangerous, or life-threatening. I don't even have to think about it, right? And the challenge is that neuroception also tells me, without even thinking about it, if I'm not safe. Okay. There's another picture. So one of the ways that our body gives us messages that it's okay to be safe or that we have to protect ourselves is our emotions. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about the emotional side of second disability in this presentation. And here's how I often introduce things when I have somebody that is maybe new to therapy. I'll say something like this. Before we begin going over your early experiences, we need to make sure that your emotions are working the way that they were intended to work, as sources of important information to help us learn what's dangerous, what's unfair, what's connected, and more. Our emotions are there at the beginning of our lives, okay? They are just there. If you watch a newborn baby, no one has to teach a baby how to feel. But many people have been taught to ignore feelings and may have even learned that it's not okay to feel feelings. And so they disconnect from their emotions. And the reason this picture is up is because it's kind of like clipping the dashboard wires in your car. Just because you get uncomfortable when you see a red light that comes on and says the engine is overheating. Does that make sense? Our emotions are like dashboard lights. They give us information of what's going on in the engine, which would be, you know, our body and the environment. But sometimes if we have early trauma or we get a disability later in life, if those wires are clipped for reasons that might not have anything to do with the decision we made on our own, sometimes we don't get the message that our emotions are trying to give to us. So feelings are really, really important. I have a lot of people that only feel their feelings from about here up. Where are your feelings? Well, they're in my head. I think them. Well, we just talked about that nerve. 80% of the nerve that helps us decide whether we are safe or in danger, the messages come from our body. All right? So keep in mind that piece with the dashboard. Here's another here's another piece to the whole puzzle that I wanted to make sure we talked about. When primary caregivers who are supposed to respond to our needs when they're not emotionally available to us in early life, when there weren't people there to respond to our expression of needs, we may tend to detach from those needs. And we may feel shame around having needs. And we also might judge other people who express needs. That is a big deal if we are dealing with a disability and we already feel helpless. The other piece to keep in mind, and this comes up in the polio support groups I lead, if we had a primary caregiver who was inconsistently responsive to helping us with remember the co-regulation? If someone was inconsistently responsive to meeting our needs, then sometimes we learn that we either have to convey our needs aggressively, we express our distress loudly, that if we don't cling to the people who care for us, we're not going to be safe. The challenge with that is we're expressing our needs, we're trying our best, and then we're left with that empty feeling. Because as children, we don't have the ability to externalize responsibility. We just don't have the ability to do that. Our brain hasn't developed. And so if something is wrong, we think it's our fault. And we do whatever, I'm getting ahead of myself a little, we do whatever we can to fix that, right? Because connection helps us stay with the herd. So this is the part. Are we wired for connection or are we wired for protection? And for all of us, it's going to be a little bit of both, okay? So as mammals, we learn by watching and trying things and repeating things, and that wires into our brains how to navigate the world. So we would say in therapy, what fires together, wires together. And so those pathways for danger and safety become well-worn the more we experience life. I would say it's very easy for a lot of us to pick up where we are wired to protect ourselves. Okay, the nervous system, though, wants to find a place, kind of like Goldilocks, it wants to find the chair that's just right. It wants to have homeostasis. It wants to have a mechanism that can move, okay? Sometimes something happens to us and our nervous system just fires like, danger, 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 danger. And usually we would say that's either because there's too much coming in, too much stimulation. Maybe we had parents that were violent, right? Maybe we were abused emotionally, physically, verbally, sexually. It also can be too much going out. So too much, the expectation to make sure that you keep a smile on your face so that everybody in the family stays happy. I hear this a lot, be a good girl. Yeah. So there was too much going out if that had to be my role in the family. Like, oh, you have a disability, but now make sure that you don't cause a fuss. Be as independent as possible. And that's how you're going to survive. Don't say that you have needs. So what fires together, wires together. Just to go over this just a little bit more, Too much stimulation, this could mean too much stimulation, or it could mean isolation. It could mean not enough calm and nurturing, too much violence, too many expectations to take care of other people, not enough support and safety for my emotions. And when this happens, the nervous system learns, oh, I've been here before. I recognize this. This is dangerous. And I will do whatever it takes at any cost to get me out of this situation. So my question would be, what did you and your nervous system learn when you had polio the first time? What was that experience? What did your family learn? Did you talk about it? Where do you feel safety? Can you feel a feeling of calm and safety in your body? Can your higher, wiser adult self connect with others on an emotional level? And what coping mechanisms might be in play to prevent this? Okay. Coping mechanisms, it's synonymous with protection. How do I protect myself when things get serious or emotions come up, especially if I learned that it wasn't okay to show emotions, or if it wasn't okay to show certain emotions? You guys all with me?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, thank you. All right, so I talked about how there's so much research going on about this right now, and for those of you, I really try and teach with pictures, with science, with stories. You might run into this idea of polyvagal theory, okay? And polyvagal theory talks about your sympathetic and your parasympathetic nervous system. And you can see that illustration has to do with that vagal nerve that I was talking about, all right? Polyvagal theory is the theory that we have to have all of these different nervous system states on that ladder to survive. And somebody who's healthy, I mean, I can't imagine any of us have no trauma whatsoever, right? Let's just be honest. But a healthy nervous system state is when the mechanism can move between all of those. It's not just staying in that green zone. Okay, it's being able to move. So we're looking, when I told you how sometimes I have to wait weeks for a client to smile at me, that's because there's a good chance that client is in the red zone at the bottom. They're shut down. And I'm going to talk about each of these sections. And if I see a connection, if I see eye contact and a smile, I know that mechanism is starting. It's like I sprayed WD-40 on it. It's starting to just move a little bit. You have WD-40 in Australia and Canada, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yes, we do.
So let me go over both the physical state and the emotional state of each of these different nervous system states, okay? So that top one, that green zone, is rest and digest. And physically, when our nervous system is in rest and digest, we're digesting, my immune system is working, I make eye contact, I have good circulation, and I have steady breathing. Particularly important is when I'm in rest and digest, I can exhale. Did you know that if you did not have the ability to exhale, your heart would go at 120 beats a minute? The exhale is the calm. So when I work with people who survived a stroke, sometimes all I'm teaching them how to do, because a stroke really dysregulates us, is sip, sip. So I breathe in, in a little more. Exhale. And you can try it where you're sitting right now. I mean, it helps us feel calm. So sip, sip, and that exhale. The emotional state of ventral vagal or rest and digest is calm. It's having confidence in our ability to self-soothe. We feel connected to other people. I can tolerate a certain amount of distress and know that I'll get through it. And interestingly, I'm able to put words to my experience. Okay? So we live in a time where we have a lot of anxiety. You know, there's so many people that are going on to antidepressants and anti-anxiety meds. True? True. True. Okay. So the sympathetic state, that yellow-orange zone, is flight or fight. And this is the body's first line of defense. This is the part of us that was created to either fight like heck to save our own lives or run away as fast as we can. This is mobilize and get activated. Okay, so when our level of arousal goes up, though, our ability to connect goes down. So the physical pieces of this, when we end up in fight or flight, are an increased heart rate and blood pressure. More blood and oxygen goes to our vital organs to activate us. Are we good?
Yep.
Yeah, we have a decrease in digestion, changes in our blood chemically so that it can clot more quickly, shallow breathing. Our immune system gets really depressed and dampened down. Our muscles tense, and our amygdala fires. The amygdala is the part of the brain that fires and says that there's danger, 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 danger. And guess what? It sends a message to the hippocampus, and that's where we hold our memories. So the amygdala fires, it sends a message to the hippocampus that's there's danger. And the hippocampus goes, this is not a safe situation, and I'm gonna remember this. And we don't even have to think about it. And that shapes our future responses, which is part of what makes the second disability so hard, is because of what our bodies have learned so early on. The emotional state of that orange zone is overwhelm, rage, irritability, panic, anxiety, problem sleeping, constantly being vigilant for danger. You know, I've had clients that they just insist if someone in the family goes anywhere that they call to let them know they made it there safely. Right? Danger, danger, everything is a danger. Going to the grocery store is a danger. This is also a state where we can have flashbacks, obsessive thinking, nightmares. We have diminished ability to connect. And you guys have probably had this. And we can't process the information when people are talking to us. We can't learn when we're in that orange zone, which is where we talk about trauma informed. We need to be trauma informed. We need to understand this process, because I can give you information all day long, but if I haven't checked in to make sure that you feel safe, that you know who I am, that you know where I'm coming from, you're not going to be able to digest the information. Your nervous system just won't let you do that. And this is always my excuse for why I don't remember what I said if I'm in an argument. Because it's true. It's true. Okay. So this is also the nervous system state that can give us some anxiety. And the piece I want you to know about anxiety is really, really good for very simple tasks. It's hard for us to recognize anxiety in ourselves. Anxiety is one of those things that kind of splooshes over into the world. And so one of the best ways we can know if anxiety treatments, whether medication or therapy or trauma therapy, one of the best ways we know if that's working is by asking the collateral people around us how they feel it's going. Because when I'm anxious, I want you to do something. I want you to fix it. I'm still connected. Why can't you fix it? Why didn't you do the dishes? Right? You can just feel it. There's lots of that in breath, less of the out. So it's really important if we're in a state of chronic, something that is chronically a stressor, it's really important to check in with people and check in with ourselves. The red zone on the bottom, you've probably heard of flight, fight, or freeze. So we now know that freeze is a third part, okay, of the nervous system. And this was created in us to make it less painful when we think we're about to die. So this is our immobilization defense system. Shut down to preserve life. Stop activating the muscles, pull all the blood in to my vital organs, just in case maybe I'm going to survive this bear attack. And release endorphins so that if I get attacked, I don't feel pain. And this is what's interesting, and I hope none of you guys have ever had a bear charge you or come after you. I'm always worried someone's gonna say, like, I got chased by a bear. That wasn't a good illustration. But this is shutdown, right? I can't cope. I just am not able to connect. This is fatigue, less eye contact, slowed breathing. Like I said, the release of endorphins to reduce pain. I'm physically numb. That's so it doesn't hurt when whatever it is that's going to kill me kills me. And my body is preparing to die. Now, we're not in a state where we're not in a part of life where a bear is going to kill us, or yellow jackets are swarming and coming after us and we have to run away. But this nervous system is still built in. And so we still experience the emotional state of these. And the emotional state of freeze is depression, dissociation, numbness, helplessness, very flat affect, despair, having no ability to engage with other people, having just my mind blanked. I couldn't run away. And because there's such a freezing component to it, it's extremely hard when the nervous system gets overwhelmed this much for me to be able to put words to my experience. This is also the reason why people who have been in horrible abusive situations can't run away. And for some of us, if we were kids, when we had something happen, we couldn't run away anyway. And the system probably spent some time in that freeze dorsal vagal state. Right? I'm going to stop sharing my screen for just 1 minute, okay? The reason I'm letting you know is because sometimes if people they're in one of these states and I just shut off the screen, it's too shocking. Did you know that? So I move through things a little easier. Oh, one more thing. Another reason why we need these states, that green state and that orange state together, when we're in play mode, we're using both of those states because we have to be active to be able to play and engage, right? And we can't be calm if there's a little bit of competition. We can't be completely calm and easygoing. We also have to have that green state with the red state. We have to have rest and digest, but we can't move. So that dorsal vagal state is also part of what keeps us from moving when we sleep. Isn't that fascinating? Like these systems work together to help us get through our day and hopefully perform as optimally as we can and keep us safe. Okay, let me stop share. There you go. Can you guys all see my fingers?
Yes.
Do you see what I have around my fingers? I was doing this the other day and the rubber band broke. And the person was like, I'm not sure that's part of your illustration. So here is the best way that I can illustrate what having a second disability does to us, right? So when we're a kid, and I don't know what age you were when you got polio, okay? But it became part of your reality. And there may have been times where who you were in your head didn't match what the world saw and what was expected of you. Now so there was some tension, right? The rubber band gets a little bit tight. And then what I've noticed with polio is we don't really talk about it and we go on living our lives, and then we get to become older and some of us experience post-polio syndrome. So all of a sudden, this thing that I haven't talked about that's been part of me very easily and not causing, hopefully, too much stress, all of a sudden I'm having to think about it again. Whoa. Okay. All of a sudden I have to maybe use a walker or a cane, or I have to get a wheelchair, or I have to get help when I'm in the grocery store. I have to rely on my spouse or partner or my kids or hire some help. And who I am in my head is no longer matching what life is asking of me. This is what we call an identity discrepancy. And we know that identity discrepancies cause depression. Okay? It's very situational. So what we have to do, right? And this is when the nervous system, right? This is probably like my nervous system is kind of doing the flight or fight thing, the freeze thing. I'm kind of irritable. I just don't really feel like myself. When this rubber band gets super tight, that's that shutdown mode. Yeah, I see you guys nodding. Thank you. Yeah, this is shutdown. And especially with second disabilities, we want to make sure that this rubber band doesn't break. And the way to do that is to come closer, come back to who we know we are. But this can be scary. I'm going to turn my screen back on, my PowerPoint right now. So one of the ways that we sometimes talk about this emotional piece that happens is asking people, if you had the ability to see inside of yourself, would you? Sometimes we just start right there. If you had the ability to see inside of yourself, what would your inner landscape tell you? Sometimes I'll have people draw what you think is on the inside, just feelings and emotions. Sometimes people draw and the only thing they draw is their head. Does that give me information? Absolutely. Sometimes people draw, and without even realizing it, they will not acknowledge a part of their body. Or they'll draw like, I don't know, there's just kind of a line here. And part of what's happening when we ask people, well, what does your inner landscape tell you? Is the right side of the brain, where most of the sensations and information from our environment, our feelings, are housed on that right side. The right side of the brain goes, I got something to say, I got something to say, but the left side logically tries to get in the way. So when we draw and do something creative like that, I can access the right side of the brain. And a lot of times, it really wants us to pay attention. That's the reason for the dreams and the intrusive thoughts and the nightmares. My brain's saying, there's something in here that's not quite digested, and I'm trying to put words to it. I'm trying to explain it. And the right side goes, you know what? All you need to do is feel it. Remember that dashboard? All you need to do is pay attention and check in, because the way the nervous system works is, as soon as you recognize what you're feeling, it goes, oh, okay, you're paying attention. Thank you. On to the next thing. But if we ignore it, and I'm sure you've all had this, if we ignore it, it tends to squish out sideways, which is the clinical term for us getting irritable, crabby, depressed, right? We have some of us, I have a short temper when I get too stressed out, when that rubber band gets too tight. So just being brave enough to simply pay attention means that you can catch yourself. You can decide to pay attention when that check engine light comes on. And one of the ways that we start doing this, like, how do I know what I'm feeling in my body when there's a part of my body that I don't even like to think about? Okay, well, let's start with something simple. Let's start with preferences. Do you like bright lights, or is it better if I turn the lights off? Here's the thing. A lot of my clients who've been in institutional settings, like spent lots and lots of time in the hospital, guess what? They don't like bright lights. Yeah. There's a body preference right there that nobody asks about. My clients who've been through trauma that maybe happened at night, what do they want? All the lights on. It's not safe when we have the lights off. Another piece of this is, when you feel a strong feeling, where do you feel it in your body? When I feel connected, where can I feel it? What's interesting is that vagal nerve, that vagus nerve that I was talking about, it actually comes to our cheeks when it's in the green state. So we feel love and connection in our cheeks. And it reminds me of, did you guys ever have somebody in your life that patted your cheeks? My grandma always patted my cheeks, and she'd go, oh, Jill, no more stunts, please. So where do I feel a strong feeling in my body? When does my throat get tight? Is there something maybe that I need to say? Where can I feel calm? I had a client the other week that just said, there is not a single part of me that's not depressed. I said, where do you feel it? All over. So I said, do you feel it on the inside or the outside? Oh, it's all on the inside. Well, guess what? Your body has an outside. It's called your skin. Are you able to feel your skin? Oh, I can feel my skin. Oh, okay. Okay. Is your skin depressed? No, it's not. Okay, what does our skin do? It protects us, right? We wouldn't just let anyone stick a needle in us and draw our blood. And this was somebody that was having a really hard time establishing some boundaries in her family. And so the skin became her metaphor for, There might be all this stuff going on the inside, but I don't have to just bleed out because someone in my family is mean. I talk about the sensitive things. I share my blood, if you want to say that. I share that with people who I know I can trust, and I can make that decision. Her family had very high expectations of her whole life, that she would be the emotional receptacle, that she would make sure that everybody got along. And she was the oldest. So guess what happens when the oldest baby, as a baby, smiles and the rest of the family is around? Everybody else smiles. So what do I have to do? I have to smile the whole time. Well, then you're not acknowledging all of those lights on the dashboard of the other emotions. But I learned, so I'm the oldest grandchild. I learned very fast, if I smile, I can keep the equilibrium in the house. But then what am I doing? I'm forgetting my own needs. Okay. So paying attention to, okay, I have pain, and where do I hurt? Well, can you find one place in your body where you don't hurt right now? One place. Let's start there. So I'm going through this kind of quickly, but I have to tell you that from what I've learned and know about working with experiences that really just knock our feet out from underneath us, slow work is fast. So this is not the kind of work that we expect to do right away. We start with little things. Do you like the lights high or the lights low? Let's do a sensory profile. Would you rather drink cold water or hot water? Do you like things that are crunchy to eat, or would you prefer something that's chewy? Or sometimes people have a preference for something that's gooey. Just start paying attention to that, because your body knows. And when you do a sensory inventory like that, you are going to be really curious about how much can I tolerate, and when does something get to be too much? Where's my sweet spot? You know, where is that? You're also going to probably notice your coping mechanisms, which are protection, right? So some of us cope, I'll just use myself as an example. It's easy for me when I get stressed, instead of focusing on myself, I can get over involved in helping other people. That's just me. That's something I've had to work on, especially being in a helping profession. Yeah. Some of us cope by making jokes. We protect ourselves. Some of us cope with denial. There's nothing wrong. I'm fine. Everything's fine. I'm just fine. Yeah, I'm good. How about you? Flip it over to someone else, right? Keep in mind, denial is one I really, really love respecting a lot, because it is a form of hope. It's a sign that the brain wants to connect and be hopeful, and that it's really scared to maybe feel some of those more vulnerable feelings, to really say, this is my reality and this is what's going on. Some of us cope by being the expert. Okay. We can be a know-it-all. We know everything. Well, you know, I see a lot of people, and sometimes that doesn't work as we get older. Sometimes people want to feel a connection versus know how much you know. Sometimes if we're giving our opinions without asking people if they want to hear it first. I have more than one client that just thinks it's their right to just give opinions and can't figure out why they can't connect. Well, let's help you with checking in first. Opinions are great. They might keep you safe. And what's behind that? What is behind your need to share with me? My favorite and my absolute pet peeve is, Jill, you look kind of tired today. Just like, come on, nobody wants to hear that. Right? But that's an opinion that I didn't ask for. And it makes sense that if somebody comes into a therapy office and they don't want to be vulnerable, they'll put it back on me. So we got to maybe do a little bit of digging, maybe do some grounding and see if we can get to the bottom of it. Hey, this is my experience with your opinions. When you do this, it makes me prickly. My experience of you is this is really hard. Oh, well, that's not what I meant at all. Oh, what did you mean? Oh, you care about me a lot. Thank you. That's the message that I like to receive. Others of us isolate. Some of us get defensive. Some of us develop an addictive process with substances, and we always want to check and see if maybe that's related to some grief. And I would say another coping mechanism that a lot of us use internally is just negative self-talk, right? And if we talk to our friends, or if we even talk to other people in this group the way that we talk to ourselves, Mona would probably kick you out. Right? We can be such hard judges. And it does nothing. It sends us right into the orange zone, if not the red zone. Okay? So you can catch yourself, oh, I'm in flight or fight. I'm in the orange zone. I'm being really critical of other people. That probably means I'm being really hard on myself. Oh, yeah, I was feeling some shame. I'm feeling unsettled. I'm feeling insecure. I'm feeling fragile. I could use some recognition. I could use some nurturing. Can you see where then there's something someone can do for us when we recognize in ourselves what's going on? And then we get less frustrated because people will give us what they need. People love to help and respond. Okay? But that mechanism, when that mechanism gets stuck in either that orange or that red state, it takes a little bit, right? We've got to be really patient with ourselves and patient with other people. I found this quote: sometimes you don't feel the weight of something you've been carrying until you feel the weight of its release. And I don't think that I understood the power of support groups until the Denver support group, until we'd been meeting for a couple years and the group started sharing what it was like to be experiencing mobility issues, getting older, all of these things. And when we share what it's like, that weight can fall off. That's that piece of recognizing what's going on. And I would also say, and this is my opinion, that we are very much taught in this lifetime to acquire and not how to let go. We're taught how to gain a reputation, how to achieve in our careers, how to have big families, maybe, I don't have kids, right? Like that felt like a big loss to me when I realized I wasn't going to have kids. I have been socially honed to acquire. And there are some things that just because of the way life works, life is asking me to let go. That I just have 2 more slides, you guys. If you want to find a therapist that is trained in this kind of theory, I'll send Mona these slides, and there's those 2 links for how to find a therapist that does the kind of therapy that we talked about today, okay? There also are 3 books there. The Body Keeps the Score, great book about what these early childhood experiences, what our body is telling us, that the stories in the book are just enough to fascinate you. Like, of course the body knows, but we don't think of it that way. Or you could just ask Carla. Carla has so many stories from her work as a, you too, Carla, you know, working with babies. I love Wendy Lustbader, and she wrote this book called Counting on Kindness. And she wrote about why it is so hard for us to get help from other people when we have a disability. It's a beautiful book, and she's an excellent speaker if she's ever presenting online. And then I did have, we have a client in our Denver group that read Mindsight, and it was very helpful to him. In fact, I think he would say that it was part of the catalyst for him deciding he was going to write his autobiography. So that might be one to look into. I haven't read that one yet. It's on my shelf. Oops. Oh, that's me. What does this say? Okay. So this is me. I wanted to make sure that you guys had my information. And we are starting a midweek support group via Zoom. And you guys are welcome to join if you want to do that. This is the time it is now, which I understand does not work if you're in France, Australia, and we might just see if we can move it to an earlier time in the morning. But for now, we're keeping it on the second Wednesday. I'm going to shut the screen and we will open things up to questions.
By the way, in Australia, they're in the morning time now. This is, look at Chris, Chris Kuhn.
I've just finished my breakfast.
See, it's the
Oh,
morning.
good.
So-
And I'm just off to a doctor's appointment.
Oh, good. Good, good. Do you guys have any what nuggets stuck with you in talking about that? Oh,
Oh,
Susie muted. I'm
Hi.
gonna
Oh, this is Terry. I think one of the things was near the end when you showed that slide about you don't realize what you've been carrying until it's released. And I can see that within myself. There are certain things that people will say, well, how could you have, done something? And I say, well, I had to let it go because it was just hurting me carrying it. It felt like a big weight when I decided something and it was no longer hurting me to hold on to it. There was no benefit to hold on to it. But it took me quite a while to come to that conclusion. And when it did happen, it was a great relief. And I feel maybe nobody else noticed it, but for myself, it certainly made me feel that my life was much happier.
I love that. I love that. That's really beautiful. You know what it reminds me of? I had somebody that I was seeing for therapy who had a similar feeling. I think you articulated what she was trying to articulate, the only thing she could really say is, oh, I left my parents' house and I thought I forgot my purse because it just felt like a weight was off of me.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
kind of like letting yourself off the hook, huh?
Mhm. Yeah. No, so that was really insightful. I do have one question. I don't know if it holds any bearing. When you were talking about being in the red zone and what's going through our head, I do find myself when things get kind of crazy with people around me or things like that, I just withdraw to recharge myself. But sometimes I find that I do it too. Does guilt have any play when you're in that red zone?
So that's a very good question. And in case this is helpful, which zone would you associate with anger? Probably the orange one in the middle.
Probably, yeah, the middle, because I don't,
Yeah.
it takes a lot to anger me. And I definitely don't like when other people are in an angry mood, whether it's either directed at me or at any other situation. So I kind of withdraw from that myself.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Please know you describe things so well, Terry. Um,
My people say I talk too much.
oh, well, you're doing great. You're doing great. Yeah. Um, so the reason I think the piece that we always explore when somebody has a lot of guilt is, and especially women, is there a chance that it could be internalized anger because you don't want to express anger?
Hmm.
And so is that part of your body trying to move into an activation? And we go, no, 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 don't be too much. That would be, if you were my client, we would do an exercise around grief and loss. And the last part of the question I would probably ask you is, my grief looks like anger when, or
Oh.
I feel guilt. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I feel guilt. Okay, where's the anger?
Mm-hmm. Okay. I
But
will
yeah, it's all
that.
connected.
Okay, good. All right. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Does Catholicism fit into that?
Probably.
I was worried about that. Yeah, sorry, but
Probably. We all had very early shaping experiences. And the body remembers that.
I
Yeah.
didn't mean to offend anybody who might be very involved in the Catholic Church, but history has its way of making it known.
I think you're okay, but thank you for that. Yeah.
What I really liked was your elastic.
Mhm.
Oh,
So many times it's gonna break. It's just gonna break. And then I just have to stop and bring it back. But
Mhm.
since I've had post polio, it's just at the breaking point. There's
Yeah.
sometimes it's even more,
Yeah.
but many times it's like at least that far. It's rarely here. How
Yeah.
do I know when it's at the breaking point? Just how can I tell?
I agree with Mona. I related to that very much. I haven't broken it, but you're right. It's just there. And sometimes it goes down. Sometimes, yeah, it's a bit of a fight.
Yes, it is. It is.
I think it's a good example for us to use with our friends and family. Like I'm having a this day. My band's way out here. So maybe I'll cancel today.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
think they would understand me better than if I explained any pain I had or whatever. But my rubber band's just going to break.
Yeah,
So I appreciate that. Thank you.
you're welcome. You're welcome. And to Chris's point, that it's really, really easy to try and do. And sometimes we just have to feel. And so if there's an icky feeling, and I will tell you from having cancer, there can be a lot of disgust when we have a disability. Sometimes what I'll do is just try and imagine it as big as it could be,
Mhm.
which is the last thing we instinctually want to do. But somehow when we let it be as big as it needs to be, you know, turn it into a piece of art in your head, turn it into a weather system, let it be as big as it needs to be. A lot of times that just dissipates it. What do you mean my grief can be as big as it needs to be? Well, you're going to have to know how big it is to find your way through. It's a very dark forest. It's going to be really, really big. Well, once I know that, you know, I'll keep going. Yeah. And so to Mona's point, like, how do I get the rubber band to get back? That's that part where we start with preferences. What do I love? Who am I outside of this disability that's not going to change? When things are taken away from me and it's not my choice, who am I in my heart? And how do I do some of those things?
Jill, isn't a lot of this also with getting older? Because everybody who's older has something, just not post-polio. So your rubber band is great because then when you want it a little bit closer, you figure out something that helps you to function again. It isn't only the disability, it's the
Yeah,
problem with getting older.
you're so right. You're so right. Yeah. Yeah, and I would say that that rubber band gets tight. You know, like that identity discrepancy affects a lot of us right out of college because we don't know what we're going to do with our lives.
Right.
The rubber band gets tight as we get older. For some of us, when we retire, we're like, I don't know who I am. And society says this is who I am, but I'm still trying to figure out who I am on the inside.
Jill, some of us call it a PPS day. We're having a PPS day where we're just,
Too much, right?
yeah,
Yeah. a
too
PPS.
much today.
No, I have no more bandwidth. Yeah.
Bandwidth. I used to do an activity with my son when he was probably preteen, maybe early teens, I don't remember. But, you know, when he was stewing about something, I would say, let's make it as big as possible
Yeah.
and just let it keep expanding and see where it goes. And he would say, I want it out of the way. And so then we would go through a process of making it as small as it could be in order to get out of the way. I think it's similar to what you're describing, but we did that for several years to help him deal with a lot of shit that was going on in our lives.
Yeah. That's amazing.
I
Yeah.
thought, oh, now that I hear this rubber band thing, we could have started there. Might have been easier.
Helen, were you about to say something?
Oh, you're quick. Yes, I was. You said something that struck me because I've done that before when somebody said to you, "Oh, you look tired today." I've done that a few times. I've even thought of it. I've thought it, and sometimes I've said it, and sometimes I haven't. But I seem to notice when people look tired for some reason.
Yeah.
Now, I don't remember what you said about it, but I got a feeling it's not very positive.
Well, it depends. And if I'm being really, really honest with you, right? That could be a trigger for me. You know, so we would have to pay attention to that. And if we were friends, it would be a lot easier, but it does kind of hint at a vulnerability. Like, oh, you look tired. Well, what if I wasn't quite ready to share how I was feeling? Bye, Susie. Yeah. Yeah. So it's great to have opinions, and do you have the ability to tolerate it if someone disagrees with you or says, actually, my experience is a little different. I'm not tired. I cried this morning and my makeup ran.
But what are you supposed to say when people say, "Oh, you're looking great. You're looking great." Like what do they expect you to look like when they say that? Do they think that you're supposed to look bad? Like what did they really expect, and how do you respond when they say, "Oh, you're looking really great"?
Right, right. They expect you probably to say thank you and pay attention, because you just went into a little bit of trying to read someone's mind. And that can be a sign of hypervigilance. What does this person expect from me?
I think that's what I think. Like, why are they saying this to me?
Yeah, yeah. And wouldn't it be nice to just say, oh, thank you? But oh, thank you, that's a connection, and that's in that green zone. And if we're perpetually have that low grade stress, it's hard for us to just say, thank you. And we start going, what did they mean by that? What were they trying to say? Yeah. What else, you guys? I don't know how long we have, Mona, so.
Well, we have as much time as people want to ask questions. It also depends, Jill, you've given us a really excellent view on how we're feeling. And I think that this is what's most important. You know, like I found out because of the rubber band how I'm feeling. And when people say you're looking good, then I'm also lost. You know, just like Ruth said, you know, like, what does that mean? How did I look yesterday if today I look better? But the other one is about, you know, if someone says I'm looking tired, oh, that means I really must have overdone it. And I have a knack for overdoing it. So then people are actually recognizing, uh-oh, you know, maybe they don't want to do whatever I'm doing, but no, that's not it either. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
When I tell someone they're looking tired, it's usually because I guess I take on empathy for people, and I guess I'm trying to get you to, I feel like your energy, you're looking tired. Is something wrong? Is there something I can do to help or whatever? Plus like you said, Jill, you might not want to share. And so now that's opening up something, but I never took it that way.
Yeah.
I looked at it like I'm in tune with you, that I can pick up on the fact that you look tired today, and I'm expressing concern, not necessarily meeting it in a negative way, I guess. So.
Right, right.
I guess instead of saying you look tired today, you should say, you know, can I help you? And do you need some help? Can I offer you some time or something?
Yeah. Hey, what's going on with you today? Yeah. Yeah. Maureen.
Yeah. My husband and I, we visited somebody. He's almost 90. He just suffered a stroke. And I guess his wife was painting this terrible picture. He can't see out of this eye. You know, his arms are all bruised, and, you know, with the thin skin, it looks like, you know, you scrape yourself, you know what I mean? And and she just painted such a terrible picture. I'm thinking, and that's why, you know, we don't see them coming back to church because of, I guess, their perception of how he looks and feels. And so when we went there, I mean, I told him how great he looked. And I guess my objective was to make him feel better, not make him, but it's not as bad.
Your objective was to make him feel better.
It was to make him feel better, but I mean, the word make, not to make him, but
No.
so that he would that it's not as bad as the picture that they're painting. I mean, he looked great. Okay, I can't tell that he can't see out of one eye. You know, I see he's walking with the walker. So what? He's close to 90. I'm glad he's walking with the walker so he doesn't fall. He's not anybody that had polio, but and that was just I mean, if somebody looks really bad, I mean, I would just zip my lip for a change. But then it may be, you know, depending on the person. But
Maureen, you went to raise his spirit.
yes, I did. We did. And let me tell you, by hook or by crook, you know, we had trouble. My husband and I are both in power chairs, and we really had trouble getting into their house. They had 2 steps to go in, but they were not long, and there wasn't enough room to replace the ramp that we brought to put it here so that we could get in anyway. And then we went around the side of the house, and you know, he's hobbling along and she has her cane, and I'm thinking, oh my Lord, if they fall trying to, anyway, long story short, we were able to get in the screen enclosure, and we kept putting our ramp wherever we needed to do. I said, no, I don't want you to touch it. I'm already halfway on the floor.
Hey, Maureen,
Yes.
can I just share a personal piece? No, you're totally fine.
No, I said something wrong.
No, you didn't. You didn't at all, right? So for those of us who are empathetic, it's really hard to see somebody in pain. Bye, Chris. It was really nice to meet you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Chris.
So when we see someone in pain, we want to do something. And when we try to, and I am like the queen of minimizing, it was the thing I got dinged on in social work school. If I don't give someone a chance to express and say their reality, and I tell them to look on the bright side, even just with my actions, or if I'm a little Pollyanna that day, right? Like, no, it's fine. It's fine. I'm not letting them feel their emotions. And if we want people, right, with that mechanism, we want people to have a whole range. And sometimes life is really hard. And that's when we really don't want to be alone. So you could play around with it by asking, what's been the hardest part of this for you?
That's not me, though. You know,
so it's just an idea that people, if we don't let people express the feeling, and some people complain so that they don't have to talk about their feelings. P.S. It can make it easier for people that can help with the intention of trying to help someone feel better.
Terry has her hand up. Terry.
This just goes back to something that Maureen said about, you know, oh, you look so good. It reminded me, this woman came up to me at my mother's wake and goes to me, oh, she looks so good. And in my mind, I appreciated what she was saying but in my mind, I wanted to tell her, she looks good, but she's dead. You know, but I think they meant they had seen her before, and you know, it was a change to see her, you know, how her body changed in the short time of getting into the casket, so to say. But I just remember she was like so excited about her looking good, but
Maybe she was
dead.
Harry, she was complimenting the Undertaker, maybe.
I guess so, but she should have went and told him. But you know what, like in Maureen's situation, I sometimes say, like, when you know someone's been going through, and if I see them and it's like, I'm not going to go, oh, you look so good, and leave it like that. I would throw in, for what you've been going through, you seem very well, or handling it very well, but, like maybe tell them why you're giving them the compliment, but acknowledging the fact that we know how hard it's been for you.
Clarify.
There for 4 hours, so I said more than that.
I'm sure you did.
Maureen, I don't think you did anything wrong at all. You know what?
I'm not saying I did, but I'm just.
I'm not saying, I just didn't want you to have the impression that I said you said anything wrong.
No, not at all. Not at all. I just wanted to
empathize
what I was looking at. But
Yeah, Mike.
How do you get to someone who just won't accept the disability? And how do you, and just finds it really hard if we discuss something in a group or something like that, and they go, are there key words or something you could say to make them all of a sudden turn around and look and just maybe and get them talking? Is there like some kind of introduction that we can use to?
You mean like it's hard to ask someone to talk about their disability because they avoid their own vulnerability?
Yes.
Yeah, so they probably can't talk about it until they feel safe. Is that kind of what you mean?
I mean, we've been in other groups and stuff, and people come in, and when they hear something that just doesn't go well, they're gone. And you wish that you could almost say so. So wait a minute, and try and get them to better understand. You don't know what words to say to them to try and. You just feel your heart goes out to them.
When you react like that, right? It's a very uncomfortable. It's a very scary place to be because we get triggered. And when we get triggered, that's probably not a good time for us to be able to hear what someone is saying or get a big explanation. And so what might be easiest is just to go, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Because when people feel triggered, they feel out of control. And so if we do something accidentally, and I mess things up all the time, right? I say the wrong things and I have to go back and apologize. But just saying like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I had no idea that was raw. Then you show, look, I'm giving you some space to have your feelings, and your feelings are very valid. We don't try and talk someone into talking about something that maybe was really painful for them.
Yeah.
We create a safe space, and then sometimes people open up. But my personal experience is if I mess up, if somebody gets really triggered by something I say, or if I forgot to warn them, then it's on me to apologize and repair the relationship. Yeah. Yeah. What else, you guys?
Is there a way to calm or heal adrenal glands, I guess?
What's going on?
So I I related to a lot of things you mentioned in your presentation, but one of the ones that stuck with me, I'm the oldest, And you were talking about just putting on that smile and trying to make sure everything is just, everybody else is happy. So I never, I didn't grow up in a family where I could express the feelings I was having of feeling vulnerable or inferior, I guess, because of the polio, because they didn't talk about it, which led me to think, okay, this is something that you should hide or as much as you can for, because it's not a good thing, I get. So based on that, I spent my whole life basically trying to cover that up or keep that a secret, I guess, from people for fear of what, I don't know, rejection or whatever, or getting teased or whatever. I don't know. But as a result of that, I always stayed in this anxious mode. Like, is this the day people are going to find out and, my secret's out there or whatever?
Oh.
And so I think I just stayed in this heightened fear of flight mode, I guess, because of that. And I think my adrenal glands had got to that point where they would just kind of just release this cortisone all the time.
Yes.
And I don't know how to now, after 65 years, 66 next month, of how to just let all that go, I guess is what I'm trying to say. That I don't know if that makes sense to you.
It makes such good sense, Sandra. And I can relate to that on so many levels. I think you put it really beautifully. And the piece to know is that the brain wants to heal. And so that's where I gave those resources. If you find a therapist that's trained in EMDR or some kind of somatic therapy, they're going to help that mechanism start to move a little more so that you can move in and out of different states.
Okay.
That's 100%. And you might even do, so this is called the butterfly hug. And this, we never tap fast because that activates the nervous system.
Oh.
Just for you, we do, when it's just ourselves, if we can think about something that's calming and do that bilateral tapping, that helps connect the right brain with the left brain and reminds the body that it's calm. And a good therapist is going to teach you some tools as well as help get your brain out of that responsibility for taking care of everyone else's feelings by not feeling your own.
Yeah, whenever people ask, so how you doing? Oh, I'm fine. And I put in the comments, fine of feelings I'm not expressing because I'm not ever really telling people how I'm really feeling, my insecurities or whatever that are going on with me. I got to put on that happy face and I'm okay and everything's all right. But I'm really anxious inside, So
yeah, it does do that to us.
yeah.
I just have a question. How many of you guys can relate to that?
Yeah.
I want you to know you're in really good company.
I will say finding this group and just being able to talk to other people who can kind of relate. I feel more, this feels like a safe spot for me to express those feelings. Those are things I'm saying here now are not things I would ever say to anybody in my family because I feel like they couldn't relate. And especially if, they've never once asked me over my lifetime, how are you feeling? When you've gone to school or whatever, was there anything that made you feel anxious about that you felt like you were different or whatever? No, it was just never discussed. We just went on about this as though I was the same as my sister and brother or whatever, So they never really inquired whether or not I was having any difficulties, whether physically or emotionally. So I just learned, I guess, to hold that in. And as a result of that, I just never really knew how to relax and release and just be truly, authentically 100% myself, I guess.
You know, Sandra, you're bringing up something that, for me, the way I can relate to that is and you're talking as you just were, it reminded me that in later years, as my siblings really well, I won't say matured because that's argumentable, but it got to be that they all felt like so much focus was on me. And that's why they all had different problems or didn't feel something or were resentful. And I wonder if that's why they
But I
in
don't think-
their
there was no
mind,
extra focus
they're not
on
going
me.
to ask about us because you had so much attention. You know,
Uh-huh.
you don't deserve me to be wondering about you or what you were going through. And I think it's maybe resentment on their part, or
Mm.
you know, you want to know about me, but thank you, because the first, I don't know, 60 years of your life, it was all on you. When you
But I
don't
didn't
feel
have
that
that
way
experience.
yourself.
They didn't really focus in on me. They just went about everything is just hunky dory, or the only part I remember that my mom had to specifically do that was related to the polio. She would, and at that time, my parents only had the one car, so she would catch a couple of buses to take me downtown to Shriners. And I can vaguely remember this, I guess, as a toddler, so that they would, give me some physical therapy, exercise my legs and that kind of thing. But that only lasted a short period of time. It's never like hospitalized like some of you guys experienced. So it wasn't like they were, or when I say they, it would be my mom, because my dad grew up in that generation where he was the breadwinner. That was his focus of being, so it was my mother to handle anything related to sick kids in school or whatever. But beyond that memory of her taking me to Shriners and them, exercising my legs, it wasn't any hyper focusing on me. I was just another kid in the family. So,
well, that's how I felt. I didn't know my brothers and sister felt that way. Because
but
like
I
you
see
said,
that if they
nothing was
really
ever
focused on me
discussed.
or something and ignored them, but that didn't really.
Yeah, well,
I don't remember any of those type of, scenarios.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to ask them, but I don't really remember.
That might
And
be
my brother's like 9 years behind me, and so by the time I was early teenager, it wasn't like, and they sure wasn't. My mom didn't have to do anything specifically for me during that time related to that. So it wasn't like it's was some ongoing ritual of daily things that took her away from them. You know what I mean? We just had day-to-day daily life, if that makes sense. I don't know. Anyway.
And one of my questions would be, what was the fear of what would happen if we talked about it? That would be a
Past
question.
my
Yeah. Yeah. Like, why do you think we didn't talk about this? This is kind of a big deal. I wonder what the fear was.
Yeah, I'm wondering too. Maybe I'm wondering if they just thought, we just treat her just like everybody else.
Yep.
She won't have, we won't put a stigma on her or whatever, but I already had my own stigma. So if that was the reason, I don't know, but.
Yeah.
But
My parents would
siblings,
Something. Hey, you guys, Marcy's had her hand up for
a
a little
long
bit.
time.
Oh,
Yeah.
Marcy, and then Lois. And I just want to add, even before Marcy, both of these things I've heard through the support groups exactly the same thing. One, they ignore me, or the other is they're jealous of me. And it all has to do with attention. So let's see what Marcy has to say. Marcy?
Hi,
Hi.
I'm from the Colorado group.
Hi.
But Sandra, I discovered about 15 years ago when the post polio really started kicking my tushy. that I had been acting, lying, whatever you want to call it, around people to make them feel better. Now, I'm the baby of the family. My brothers are 6, 7, and 9 years older than I am. So it's the same age difference between you and your siblings, sort of. And we just always talked about polio at home. I mean, mother was on the local board. They knew I had surgeries. They knew I had casts. They took care of me because I was little and they were big. But I decided I wasn't going to act anymore, which doesn't mean I don't slip into it. I do. But I have a tendency when somebody asks me how I am, I look at them and say, you really want to know, or you just being polite? Because, and Jill and Carla will tell you, I'm kind of blunt like that. Sometimes I'm actually polite about it, not often, but occasionally.
So Marcy, oh, were you done?
No, I was going to say something else, but you go ahead.
So I think that's a really big piece, right? I discovered I'd been lying to make other people feel better about my disability.
But I always used acting when I talk to other people about it.
Or acting, but think about it, right? That goes to that piece of when I'm a kid, I don't have the ability to regulate and control my world. So if I protect other people from my trauma, then they're more likely to keep me with their tribe.
But I didn't really start acting until I became an adult, till I was 18 or 20.
Okay.
Now, I didn't have a lot of outside the home interchange, even though I was in public school. I didn't have tribes. I didn't have groups. I didn't have buddies. So I was kind of isolated in school. But when I got free of my mother and went out, I started acting because I could get people to like me and be around me. And about 10, 15 years ago, I realized that by doing that for so many years, I had damaged my body because, oh yeah, I can do that. I can join you. Yeah, no problem. Oh, I'm fine. Except I have different words for the fine from Louise Penny. But anyway, yeah, it was, if I act this way, oh, and then I realized as my body started going to heck in a hanky that by acting, I wasn't doing myself a favor, and I was not honoring the people around me, their humanity, their ability to accept me and to accept the fact that, to quote Margaret Hinman, one of our groups, growing old is the shits. Sometimes literally. But to honor them with that I trusted them to accept me with all my warts.
Got it.
And trust me, I don't do that all the time. It's sporadic.
Yeah. Thanks, Marcy. Yeah.
That's
I let it all hang out, Jill.
Let's ask Lois what she was gonna say.
Yeah.
Okay, well, am I unmuted? Yes. I wanted to address, I think it was Terry and Sandra about their siblings, because my brother had a lot of jealousy, and his perception was that I got more attention, whether it was because I was going to the doctors, my parents were doing exercises with me. And so what I was kind of hearing Sandra said, that she didn't think she was being specialized, but a kid's perception is we're getting more attention. It doesn't matter. It was not for good reasons.
Right.
And that's their perception is we got more attention, we're more special, yada, yada, yada. And that wasn't really what it was about. But my brother even, they sent him because he was very angry. So they even had him go to counseling. And, you know, he said, my sister is this, my sister is that, my sister. But it wasn't I was getting like a new car. It was I needed to be taken care of physically.
All right.
And what's
So I just wanted you guys to think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Carla.
There was also back in the late 40s, 50s, the perception that people who got polio came from dirty houses and dirty homes. And I don't know, but I have a very strong feeling that that's why my parents would never talk about it, is because, you know, they were comfortable. They might have been more than comfortable in their, you know, lifestyle, but they couldn't let any of their friends at all even begin to think that I had had polio. And, you know, thank God I had a pretty complete recovery until post-polio started hitting, because that made me more acceptable to them. And that's crazy shit.
Wow. Interesting.
Helen.
Sandra, I met Sandra on the cruise this year. I just reminded her because she forgot. We don't look the same in our little bars here.
Yeah, as I told her, those little squares, and I need my glasses, but I guess I'm vain. So
But when I saw you tonight, I said, oh, I remember you from the cruise. But also, we didn't get to talk all that much. My husband was with us, so we were doing stuff on our own as well. But there were a few people that had friends with them, so they weren't all polio survivors. And I wasn't sure if you were either, because when I looked at you, I said, she's, if I'm not mistaken, correct me, you were standing, walking like I was, and I'm going, I think I even went up to you and said, did you have polio? And then when you said yes, I said, well, it almost remind me of me, because people don't know if I had polio or not. So it's rare that we find somebody that's doing a lot. I mean, I was a nurse before, which is maybe why I tend to be observant with people being tired or not. I just wanted to say that too. But there was like a connection I had with you, just because in my mind we looked alike, and yet maybe in other people's minds they knew we didn't look normal, I guess, but in our minds I was normal because I went to regular school and did a lot of stuff and whatever. So I don't know, it was just a bit of a connection. And plus, growing up with the family was never talked about in my house either, but there was I felt a lot of shame from just because the fact that it wasn't talked about, like Jill said, it must be our fault, because as kids we think everything is our fault. So there must be something wrong with us because they're not talking about it. And I went to visit a relative in another province when I was married, even with my husband, and it was my mother's cousin, I guess. And I remember her saying to me, oh, you're Helen, you're the one that had polio. Everybody talked about it at the time. And I'm going, really? I never would have known, because nobody in the house hardly ever talked about it. So it's just weird. Anyway.
Yeah.
I want to add something before Maureen. I want to say that this week I had the experience of being with 4 or 5 people with polio, and we went swimming. And one of the things that was just truly amazing is we had the same legs. It was the first time I'd been in a room or, well, in the swimming pool, showing off my legs. And we could relate to each other how we looked. Now, we have never, ever talked to anyone else about how our legs looked. Helen was even there, but Helen has polio in her upper body. We didn't even discuss Helen. We were discussing where our operations were.
I had the feeling people were looking at me and saying, well, there's nothing wrong with your legs. They couldn't tell it was my arm and, you know, somewhat of my leg as well, obviously. But yeah, we were comparing feet in the water.
We were comparing legs, and it was truly amazing to be able to talk to someone else and say, oh, I had that operation. Look, it was the same one. And look, your foot looks just like mine. And we had never been able to relate to anyone before this.
And look how old we are, and we're doing this now.
We're doing this now. Well, at least we're doing it now because we didn't have the opportunity before. And in my family, they didn't talk about my polio. They were just jealous of the fact that I got the attention. And it didn't matter what kind of attention. What really blew up in my house was when I'm one girl with 4 brothers, was when my father bought me a bedroom set. And nobody else had a bedroom set. So that was their chance to say, oh my God, look what she got, and I didn't get it. So it wasn't polio, but it was something else to say, look, I'm jealous of you. But we didn't know that was what it was.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you have something to say, Jill, on that?
No, I think yeah. I was listening. I wasn't planning to respond. Was there a piece of it that you really had a question about?
No, I don't think so. It was just great to be able to talk to someone else on the same level. And
it sounds healing, Mona.
Yes, that's the word. Yeah. I think that if I have the opportunity, I will do that again and get polio people together and go swimming.
I wish I was closer, though I never learned to swim, but I do wish I was closer to you so I could partake with my life preserver. I've always wanted to learn to swim, so, but I feel like it's too late now in my old age.
Well, I wear
Put it on your to-do list.
little wings on my arms, so I don't have to move my arms in the water.
Oh,
And you know what, Sandra, is swimming is even just being in the water is very calming to the nervous system. It is one of the #1 things that that you could do to help with the body, even if you just walked in the shallow end in the water. So good for you.
Yeah.
But my problem with that, Jill, is I'm still too self-conscious to go do that out in public around other people that aren't, have type.
I'm sorry, Sandra. I saw you on the cruise. She is tall and thin and stately. And
Good body.
Beautiful woman. Come on, those of you on the cruise. Jenny, you remember Sandra and Helen?
Yes, but I can also associate, no matter how good, like you're saying, she looks, maybe in her mind and in my mind too, I try to hide my arm. So, and if I'm going in the water, I try to pretend there's sometimes nobody next to me. So I don't have to worry about what I look like. I just go in there and try to enjoy myself. And I do aquafit, and I've learned to go at my own pace and do what I can do. And most times I can kind of ignore people, but it just never goes away. It's just not as bad sometimes, but yeah, our bodies just aren't the same like everybody else's. What can I do?
Yeah.
But then when you look around these days, the size of people and what they look like, then you look at yourself and you say, I'm not so bad.
Could be worse. Could be worse.
I'm just gonna ask Mike to say one thing.
But I didn't say
because
my
Jill
didn't say.
But I didn't say my thing.
Okay, but I also, Jill, you have been here for 2 hours. We just love having you here.
Time flies when you're having fun.
We're gonna let both Maureen and Mike have their say and hopefully ask you a question before we have to let go. Yes, Maureen.
Well, I just wanted to say that I was one of four, but when I got sick, it was just my older brother and myself. And then my sister came along almost a little more than 3 years later. And then I had a little brother that was 8 years younger than I. And, you know, when I look back, it's not as though we didn't talk about polio. To me, it's because I don't remember. I was only 2. But for me, it's like, okay, so you had it, and I got rehabilitated, and I'm now in braces and crutches, and I'm doing chores and everything else like, you know, the rest of the family. But to actually sit down and say that we talked about it, it was like past history. It's history. And
You know,
we moved on from there. But yet my sister, who's 3.5 years younger, she, to this day, she will carry this jealousy thing. And she's gonna, and again, it's because I guess in her little mind, when I was still having surgery or I was having therapy or I was going off to this place where the bus would come and get me and we'd go and have a day of crafts. And my mother was very, very in tune to what my sister, she'd be acting out and, well, why can't I go? And if somebody would say something about me and not my sister, then my mother would stand behind my sister and do one of, you know, can you see that? Like say something about her too. She was very in tune. And I mean, I didn't ask for the special attention. I didn't ask to get polio. I didn't ask for any of this. It was like, where is she? She's gone. Lois says it was something that was a necessary thing that needed to go on in the family. And it wasn't forever. I mean, I was out of that house when right short of 19. And I know my little brother has no issues. My older brother doesn't have any issues, but it's just my sister, the one, and I believe it's usually the one after the younger sibling after the person who had
I
polio.
had all 3.
In fact, your cohort, Jill, oh my gosh, what's his name? Come on, Al Goldberg. He did a real good seminar for us about this jealousy thing, and you can catch it on my website, the recording. And it was very, very insightful. In fact, he even invited the siblings to share. And Stan had his brother, and I had all of my siblings there in the meeting. And when I go back and I watch my sister with her body language, you know, you're like, oh no, not me. I'm okay. That's not me. And oh, unbelievable. But that's all I wanted to say. Thank you. I'll keep quiet now.
Thanks, Maureen. Thank you very much. Mike.
Well, I got polio in 1948 and I never knew it. I had non-paralytic polio, and the pediatrician, we lived in an apartment house. Pediatrician told my parents, don't say a word about it because they'll make you move out of the apartment house. So I had no idea I had polio until I had post-polio syndrome in the early 1980s. And I went to visit an aunt who was my father's sister, and he was a pharmacist and she was a nurse. And if I had polio, she knew it. And when I going to talk, I was going to give a lecture at Maureen's group, and I stopped at my aunt's house, and I pulled up my leg and I showed her my short brace on my leg. I said, did I have polio? And all of a sudden, her face just, you know, it says it all when you look at them, and like she said, who told you? And then I had to get information out of her. But at 90, she really didn't remember a lot because she said, we forgot about you. There was nothing wrong with you. What happened now? So they kept that secret all of those years. It's absolutely incredible.
How did that feel to you?
I don't know. I really don't.
Yeah.
Look, it's interesting. I grew up being a polio researcher and a polio lecturer, and I've been studying this for years. So so when I had post-polio syndrome, I knew about it, but I didn't know I had polio. But I didn't know I had polio. I mean, I studied virology under a guy that worked with who helped to invent the Sabin vaccine. So I knew all about polio, except that I was a polio survivor. To me, it was like a joke after all of this time. I mean, all of this time they kept their mouth shut. Who can keep? My wife can't keep a secret for 3 hours. This whole family kept a secret for all of these years. What a secret! I mean, that's a secret. Let me tell you, that's when you keep a secret for 50 years. That's a secret.
Yes.
Thank you guys so much for letting me give this presentation with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you too.
It was
Really
excellent.
nice group.
There's all kinds, thank you, Jill. There's all kinds of messages saying, thank you, Jill. We have learned so much. I will never now ever forget this elastic, and I'm going to try and keep it here. But I know that sometimes it goes that far. But boy, when I was in that swimming pool, we were all alike, and that was really something.
Hey, Mona, next time you have a meeting, keep that rubber band, and when someone says something, you can go like that. We can go like that, and we'll get the idea.
Well, I hope that this was very interesting and helpful to all of us. I enjoy so much the support group that we have here and the people that came today. Well, this was a record. We were up to 28 people, and it was just marvelous. Jill, you are a wonderful speaker, and your ideas were just excellent. I'm going to translate this. I don't know exactly how. I'm going to translate it into French for my polio group in Quebec. And I see that Marietta, you were going to say something. I'd love to hear what you're going to say. Marietta?
Sorry, that was an error.
Oh, okay. Well, you keep talking to us. We love to hear your opinions and everyone else's opinions. And Jill, you gave us a chance to open up, and that's what we needed.
Great. Thank you.
Yes.
Guys,
Mhm.
Thank
thank
you.
you for letting me. All right.
Okay.
Guys, take care.
Bye.
I'll send you the PDF. And you guys will have my contact information if anything else comes up, okay?
Thank you.
Okay. Well,
Thank
again, thank you all for being here. This was a wonderful meeting. Maureen, do you have a comment?
I'm just gonna say, and to go with all those things that I said about Sandra, she had on these beautiful espadrilles that were probably this tall, this high, making her, I swear, I think, you're all laughing. I think I have to show you, maybe this, let me see if I can.
You were jealous, Maureen?
I was, yes.
I would be,
And I
definitely.
know, look, she's the tallest one. My finger is right in front of her. Where is she? I can't see. If you can see her,
Yes.
right
No,
where where's my,
Yeah.
Oh, yes, lift it up a bit, more in front of your face.
Maureen, lift it up.
right where my finger,
Okay.
mhm. There's a little head.
the little head. Good. God bless her. I mean, everybody got polio different. Everybody recovered differently. And, I mean, I can slap myself by saying this, Sandra. I'm thinking to myself, she has no residual. And I better keep quiet, but God bless you, Sandra. Whatever it is that's going on in your head, it's in your head. You're a beautiful, beautiful woman. And
Are you telling me I'm cray cray?
no, what's that? No,
I have to go, you guys. Bye.
Bye,
Bye,
Jen.
Jen. Thank you.
Thank you,
Get
Jill.
out of
Thank you
town
so
quick.
much.
Okay. Mona,
Yeah.
Really and truly,
you know,
Sandra.
Terry,
this conversation that we've had, I wonder if we can have I don't know how anyone else would feel about it, but something along the lines of that we can talk about when I learned I had polio, or when I found out I had polio, because a lot of us seem to have the story of, first of all, we were very young, so we wouldn't have a memory of it. But I honestly can say right now, I do not remember when I realized I had polio, because my family never spoke about it. And I think maybe that would be something good to talk about. And, because we couldn't do it then, but I don't remember that I couldn't talk about it. I didn't feel like everybody said, oh, the need to talk about it. But really, I couldn't tell you when. I think I started to realize it probably when I was like maybe 6 and 7 and started to have the operations. But up until then, I never thought that, my first thought was I'm going to be turning into the mermaid that I've always wanted to be. Because you got to lose your legs,
Ah,
So, but really, when did we realize that we had polio?
Hmm.
I
that's
don't know.
a good question. I'm gonna put that down. I'm gonna make
I mean,
it.
it doesn't have to be soon or anything like that, but I think it would be, I would like to know, because I'm nosy.
When did I realize I had polio?
Good question. Mhm.
Stages.
or when and how did I realize?
Yeah,
Mhm.
good.
When
mean-
and how did I realize?
Look, tonight we were 28 people, and there would be 28 different stories if everyone spoke
Yes.
about it. Yeah.
Could have had a season on television, 28 different stories.
Yeah, it would last longer than the Golden Bachelor's marriage.
Well, we here in Canada, we have a channel that's called that's all about disability. It started off with blind people, so it was TV for blind people, but now it's all different disabilities, and they actually have shows about everything. People who had car accidents or different accidents became paraplegic. And then there was one show which was absolutely fabulous. What are the questions that everyone is afraid to ask you? And it was about different disabilities. They had learning disabilities. They had Down syndrome. They had spina bifida. All the different disabilities. And what are the questions that people were afraid to ask you? And it was just marvelous. 30 minutes on a certain subject.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a really great channel. So maybe we could have a channel with all of our people. But when and how did I realize I had polio? I think
Yeah.
it would be a really good one. I think that it was wonderful that Jill was here to talk
Excellent.
about what is our second disability, and that her presentation gave us an insight into how we are feeling. And that's something we have never really thought about. There's another question that we can ask ourselves is, how do we feel shamed by what was wrong with us? And when you are in a wheelchair specifically, and you go into a store and people treat you so differently because of what you're not able to do. So these are all types of things that we have kept away from our thinking. And what about those people who are, oh, I'm so sorry for you. Like, I don't want to be told, be sorry for me. You know,
Mine would, yeah, no, mine would
So
be,
how can these people
it's so
feel
wonderful that you all go out for dinner together. And Maureen was with me for that one, like,
True.
when that
How do these-
condescending, type of way being treated. like they'll be overly nice.
Just
Yeah.
tell them just tell them you're a cousins club. That's all. We're all related. That's all related.
Well, the swimming club was really quite something, and this was my opportunity to bring together my polio group in a strategic plan to come up with what are we going to do for the next 2 years. And I think one of them is going to be not just invite 5 people to the hotel, but all of the board of directors to be able to talk together, or go to a camp like they have in Colorado where you can see other people with their abilities and
It's
not look at our
stunning.
disabilities.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be nice?
Sandra,
You're gonna have that this year?
yes,
I think they're gonna.
Someone mentioned that to me on the cruise, but I haven't.
Yeah, I have it here.
it's really an amazing experience,
I have their newsletter here.
but
It's going to be August 6th through the 10th.
August 6th through the 10th.
it's really fun.
It
And
was-
all those people in the pool,
Do you have a digital copy? Maureen,
could you scan it with your phone?
or just take a picture of it
Yeah,
picture
and
of-
text it to me?
Well, wait, Maureen, I thought you said it was in your newsletter.
I haven't put it in there yet because it's so far out, but I'll have to make a mental note, right?
Well,
I did
Uh-oh.
I did put the new midweek Colorado that she
Meeting, yeah.
posts in the newsletter, by the way. So I did get that done. And that's why this old newsletter is still sitting on my desk, because I have to add it on the mark your calendar.
Sandra, I used to be a competitive swimmer,
Oh, wow.
and there's no way in hell I can do that now without screaming in pain. But just to get in water, I use one of those noodle things, those really long tubes,
Mhm.
and I feel safe. But I mean, I feel very safe in water anyway. But oh my God, my brain just goes.
Wow.